And so it might be interesting to describe what is the testing process that we've used to make sure that this thing, first of all, that it works, and second of all, that people understand it. Can you talk about the alpha and beta testing?
Yes, we have two tests. The first one is the alpha testing, that is an internal test to understand the structure and how information is necessary to insert in the tool. But the second test is the beta testing. This is with the user, the final users. So then we have contact with the different PRs and SRs to take the approval to make the beta testing in the country. The beta testing is a pilot with one team in each country, and each team is responsible for present all the tools and test the tools with the users, find the documentation and all the information that's necessary, and present the final results. So,
including all the problems that have happened.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
This is the most important thing is to know what problems are and what is if it's necessary add other somethings in the tools or delete some things, etc. So the idea with the beta testing is left final version and ready to use for the other users.
And then in terms of lessons learned, the importance of testing multiple times, and then using a variety of testers, because oftentimes you will discover things through multiple testers, whereas with using fewer testers you might only detect a few of the bugs that exist in the tools. So to really take the time and to expend the resources to do thorough testing, so that you make sure that at the end of the day you have a tool which is high quality and as error-free as possible.
But the purpose of all this testing, obviously, is to create a generic product that can be transferred to more than 100, maybe even more than 300 different grants, and it will work. So to take pains at the testing stage always seemed like a good investment of time and effort.
I would say that, I'm coming from a software development background. So this is kind of the natural evolution of how software is maturing over time. It goes along with a process which is standardized. But in this particular project, it was very evident that simplifying was the goal, was the objective, and that's not as easy as it seems. So making something easy to use and to understand while achieving what you want to achieve is the challenge. And this is by iterating on those different phases through the pilot, through the rollout and the successive improvement that we managed to get there. It's a lot of work to get to an end product with user manuals for the end users, for the teams supporting the end users in different languages. It is a massive work. So when you're comparing the creation of the dashboard for one entity and you're comparing this with the end product, it's literally 5 years of work in between.
So currently we have 27 countries that are using dashboards.
Right.
And among those countries, we've counted about 95 grants. And there are additional countries that are interested in adopting dashboards, so we expect the numbers to go up in the future.
I'd like to highlight, I think one component of the dashboard that has made it successful in Senegal is the fact that it was designed for PRs and SRs and not for global fund reporting. Therefore, the PRs and the SRs tailor the tool and the way they use this tool to what fits best to their needs. So the grants in Senegal perform adequately. The quantitative performance ranges between B1 and A1 grants. And if you look at performance over time, I think the performance has improved. And I believe the dashboard is one of the factors that has made this improvement. When we look also at absorption rate, it is currently at an average of 80%. But going forward, I think in 2017, we'll see an increase in the absorption rate.
So for the PR dashboard, when we did the pilot phase, it was mostly one principal recipient in a country. And interestingly enough, this was successful in certain cases. And it was interesting to see the interest from the CCM members, but also from the other PRs in the same country. And in some of those countries, it created an emulation between principal recipients. And then they raised the request to also be equipped with the dashboard. Why do they have the dashboard and we don't have the dashboard? So I think that this is how the project evolved towards the full of the country approach, where then we thought about the CCM summary. It only made sense to have a CCM summary when you have all principal recipients equipped with their dashboard. So that was the second step towards the full country approach.
So even before the pilot was over, we already had pilot countries that were expressing interest in adopting dashboards for the grants that had not participated in the pilot. And at the same time, we had countries that had heard about the dashboard but weren't yet using it. And at the same time, we'd come to the conclusion that if you were going to be using dashboards in a country, then it made sense to have as many PRs as possible using the dashboards, so that the CCM summary, which is the dashboard, the new dashboard that's now used by CCMs, which uses files imported from multiple PR dashboards, in order to make that meaningful and effective, that you needed to have the maximum number of principal recipients using dashboards. Right. So we came up with a standardized approach of introducing dashboards in a country, the whole of country approach. And we also developed guidance for helping principal recipients determine whether or not it made sense for them to introduce dashboards based on things like where the grants were in their cycle, were they at the beginning of the cycle or the middle of the cycle, and so forth.
And this has been probably the biggest change in the approach since the first generation and the second generation dashboards, is the notion of the whole of country approach. That there's both efficiency in the consulting, but it also creates a greater impact in terms of the management improvement and the oversight improvement if all the principal recipients in a country, whether they're public sector or NGOs or private sector PRs, that they're all using dashboards and they're all reporting to the CCM for oversight using a summary tool, which Eduardo has called the CCM summary.